Last thing that I want to kind of say is that we talked a lot about, we use the language penance, the sacrament of penance. So historically, keep in mind, why that? Because there was penance involved. In the early days of the church, very rigorous penance and very public penance. Then, over history, that penance became very private. Okay? So that's where you hear it's the sacrament of penance. Pope John Paul II, in a letter that he wrote, an encyclical, Reconciliation and Penance, he used the language for the first time in a very prominent way, the word reconciliation. That when we come and we celebrate the sacrament, it's not about penance, but it's about being reconciled with God and with your neighbor. It's not just about being told, I forgive you, but it's about walking out of that place and saying, God has restored me to the community and has restored me in my relationship with my brother and my sister. Bishop Amen, 2 years ago, I don't know if any of you ever did, but he gave some talks throughout the diocese on the Sacrament of Reconciliation. And he spoke specifically about reconciliation. That reconciliation, one, there is forgiveness in reconciliation, but there's a difference. I can forgive you, or you, without you ever saying to me, I'm sorry. And that is the command that Jesus says. We're called to forgive our brother, sister, 70 times, 7 times, unlimited number. I can forgive you even though you choose not to tell me, I'm sorry for what I did to you. To be reconciled takes 2 parties. It takes 2 parties. And the hope is in this reconciliation that you reconcile, that you can not only come and acknowledge it, but then somehow that you go out of there and you try to make peace with your brother and your sister. They can always refuse it. The other thing, sometimes people will say, well, why should I forgive, if he's not sorry, she's not sorry. You really get into this case when there's some issues like, let's just say, capital punishment. And again, big topic, heavy topic, and there's a lot of people that have different opinions, but are we called to forgive those people? Yes, we are. As difficult as that is. I mean, John Paul II sitting down with his assassin, forgiving him. We might say, well, he was a special, unique guy, very strong spiritually. Well, yeah, he was. Even more reason for us to look at him as a model. To forgive someone is not your gift, but it's God's gift to you and me. It's God's gift to you and to me. And when a gift is given, it's meant to be shared. It's meant to be shared. And too often times, especially when we've been hurt profoundly, we've been hurt really, the wound is deep. We tend to want to equate, if I forgive someone, then is that not somehow saying that what he or she did to me is okay? That's not what it means. People still need to be held accountable. But we're mandated. Want to use that language? It's pretty. I think if you read the scriptures, it's pretty obvious. Jesus doesn't say, well, if you think about forgiving, if you would like to be a little... No, he says, you are to forgive. And when he hangs from the cross, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. He says nothing about that it's easy. It isn't easy. It's never, I don't think it's easy. And it's especially very difficult when someone hasn't come and said, I'm sorry. And we all have stories like that. either our own or people have told us, but Father Danny, but they haven't, they've never said they're sorry. Well, I hear you, but that doesn't change our need to. When Bishop Amen was giving he gave the talk, and about a year ago, this book was written, and he helped to write this book. And if you want a beautiful book, kind of some stories and experiences about forgiveness, it's called Facing Forgiveness, A Catholic's Guide to Letting Go of Anger and Welcoming Reconciliation. Laughlin Sofield, a brother, a friend, and Sister Carol Giuliano, and Bishop Amen helped to write. They wrote this book together. It's a great little book. It's very easy read. They're kind of personal questions for reflection at the end. You might want to consider getting it. And I'm not here to push Bishop Amen's book because I was at a day of staff on conflict, and Brother Laughlin was speaking, and I know Brother Laughlin, but as I read through it, some of the language that he used when I heard him at the cathedral, you hear that in this book, and he speaks very, very well to it. Very simple, understandable.
Who's the publisher again?
It's Loyola Press. No, I'm sorry. It's Ave Maria Press out of Notre Dame. Ave Maria Press. And I think it says it's $10, $9.95. But it's because I think forgiveness is one of those means of being a human being that is always a challenge for us as a Christian people. I mean, I think we know personal stories like you and I know our own stories. We know stories in the community. We know stories in the world. The command that Jesus gives is pretty clear. And